Hello, this is Julius from Basic Financials. I'm going to talk about investment risk today. Just a general sort of chit-chat about investment risk. There aren't any rights or wrongs to this. I just wanted to, I've thought about it quite a bit and had various dilemmas in the past. So this is going to be just some of my thoughts on investment risk. So first of all, first thing to remember is if you're in the lucky position of having enough money or cash or funds to worry about whether you should be putting money into cash savings accounts or buying a property or putting them into a pension fund, then first thing to remember is, well, that's great. You're lucky. You've got some money there. So try not to get too wound up and stressed about what shall I do with it. Now it's easy to say that. You don't want to be having it wasted. You don't want to have it sitting somewhere where it's going to be losing money or not doing anything. I know, but try and remember that it's a good situation to be in, really. And okay, it might give you some other types of grief, but there are a lot worse types of grief to be having, like where's your next meal coming from? So always try and keep that in mind. Which, as I say, isn't always easy, but try to. Now, the next question is, if you've got this money, when you're wondering what to do with it, you're trying to really think, well, what are you risk averse? Do you not like risk, or are you quite happy to risk your money, your capital? Now, I think this is probably just the way you are, and I don't think it's something you can really train yourself to be anything other than. And you can probably get a good idea of this, how you might be with this approach, from just thinking about some things that might have happened in your past. Entrepreneurs, and this isn't always the case, but generally entrepreneurs are fairly happy to risk capital, and they risk lots of things. They're happy to risk not being liked by people. They're happy to risk other people's feelings. Not always, but generally they're quite happy to do things that they want to do, and who cares about the consequences? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but they're not too worried about it not working, because they think, well, another opportunity is going to arise and I'm going to have the money and I'm going to be able to have another go at it. So you'll often hear that most entrepreneurs have often lost a lot of money before or even after they've made a lot of money, and so that's sometimes the way they are. Now, forgetting about the money side of things, you might be able to pick up on how you are from maybe, say, for example, some sport that you've been doing in the past. Or rather, not necessarily sport, but think back to some sport issues. Do you remember the things that you did that were really good? Or do you remember the things that were really not so good, but the things that you wish you could go back and change? For example, I can remember playing in a golf competition where one round we got through a round when I had to go up an extra hole, and I won that extra hole, played it perfectly, and we went through to the next round. And then right at the end, in the final, I ended up doing the same thing, but mucking it up, bottling it, and we lost it. And which one do you think I remember? I always remember the one that went wrong, not the one that went right. Well, that tells you probably something about how I am about risk, strangely enough. But so I'm a little bit risk averse. I'm also an accountant, which probably tells you I'm risk averse as well. I would rather look after other people's money and advise them than do anything myself on my own. And I'm an employee in an accountancy firm, so I often think, should I have set up my own accountancy firm, or should I not? And you sort of have these dilemmas, and what you've done over the past will probably give you an idea of your attitude to risk. Now, the next thing to say is not to beat yourself up about how you are. If you're risk averse, then that's fine. You just accept it, realise that you would rather have something safe there and not lose it all than to have had it put somewhere and it have gained 120%. Obviously, you wouldn't have rather that in hindsight. If you suddenly see, well, if I put it there, I could have got 20% extra. Now, wishing that you'd put it in that thing that had gone up 120% doesn't mean that you aren't risk averse. It just means that in hindsight, you wish you'd done it because you would have gained this amount. But you've never got the benefit of hindsight. And things that have happened in the past don't always happen in the future. And I've talked about this in another video. We're always thinking, when things start to go up, people tend to think up in price. Oh, I've got to get into there. And then when things go down, you tend to think, oh, I need to come out of there, which always leads to us buying when prices are high, selling when prices are low, which is totally the wrong thing to be doing. And if you're risk averse, that's what you end up doing if you're trying to get into the game where you think you might not be risk averse. So accept that you're risk averse if you are risk averse. And don't worry about it. Just do the things that are appropriate for risk-averse things, which might be as extreme as putting your money into a cash account that's only earning 0.1%, and you'll hear all over the place, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing that. You could be making this amount of money doing that," or that's for them, not for you. If you've decided that's what you want to do it and feel comfortable with it. Now, on the other side, things you might be happy to gamble, shall we say, and it is sort of gambling. If you're willing to put money and risk all of the capital, then that's gambling effectively. Okay, there might be some sort of knowledge behind that gambling, but I don't know, is there? I mean, people might say, well, property's a sure thing, isn't it? And on the whole, it has been, but there have been times when people have thought that, invested in property, and the prices have gone down. It's been a little while since that's happened. Maybe that means it's going to happen again. I don't know. So there's no right or wrong here. It's the things I'm saying is try to establish what you really honestly think you are as far as risk is concerned, and therefore what you might want to do with any money. Remember that that's a great position to be in if you've got that money to invest in the first place, and try to keep that in mind. And secondly, or thirdly, don't beat yourself up about either being a risk person or not being a risk person. Accept it and make your decisions based on that. You might change as time goes on, but accept it and enjoy it. Anyway, thanks very much for listening. I hope that's helped. It is just a discussion, not advice. I'm not in a position to give advice, just to give my thoughts on how I've felt about things in the past. Like and subscribe as usual, please, and leave any comments or questions. Or there aren't really any comments or questions on that video, but hope it was helpful, and I'll see you again for another video soon. Thanks for listening.